Okay, there's our grease fitting for anybody that was wondering. In there, and I can get right to it, no problem. Now once I get this cover on, you know, the dust shield, it's not going to be able to access it, but unless you pull it off, but that's okay. Alright, we're all greased up, ready to go. Let's move on. Okay folks, pulled the coupe around so we can start pulling the engine out of it. Getting ready to pull our floorboard out, but cheap Chinese import key switches. I bought 5 of them, and when I got them in the mail, 2 of them had already came apart, and now this one's came apart, and I'll never do that again. They're cheap, but they're cheap made, and you know, it wouldn't have took that much more to crimp them right. It's just a shame that, you know, the quality of the product is bad because of, you know, workmanship. It could have been easily, very easily taken care of. But that's the way it goes. So, alright, we're going to have to put a different key switch in it, but don't matter anyway. Got to change everything else. So let's get this floor out of it, unbolted, and we'll start from there. Okay, floorboard's out. That didn't take but a couple seconds. And what we're going to do, I've got this set up to where I pull the drive shaft and I pull this cross member, then we can actually put a jack under the engine. This transmission will come out and curve sort of sideways and come all the way out of the hole. So we're going to get the transmission out of the way. And now when we put the other one in, we'll probably leave it on the engine, not take it off, just slide it all in together. But just, you know, to make this a little bit more practical, I'm going to go ahead and pull this off. So let me get the drive shaft first, and then we will get the bell housing cross member out. Okay, I wanted to show you the rear end. It's a 1948 Pontiac, and you can see these caps. And I had a 55 Ford back in high school that had sort of the same style caps, and I used to break them just about on demand, and the Napa kept them there for me, but I would break them all the time, throw drive shafts out. And I had a 55 Ford 2-door Fairlane with 351 Windsor, and had a 3-speed in it for a while, and then I ended up putting a 4-speed in it. But it was geared low with the original rear, and you know, it didn't take a whole lot of power when you got really low gear to make you go fast up to, you know, 60-70 miles an hour anyway. So it done really well. But anyway, I know that these joints won't handle a lot of horsepower for sure, and so we're gonna be easy with it. But you know, I've smoked the tires on it. It's just so light, it's not gonna, if it don't hook, it's not gonna hurt anything anyway. But we're gonna get the drive shaft out real quick and get the transmission out. Alright, I think it comes back just far enough to clear that, and then I go up that way, and then I can lift it right out. I believe so. I'm about to get her. Alright, got her out. Took about everything I had, but getting old. Well, the you can see why I don't go with a hydraulic clutch. You see, it just hooks straight to the lever. That's it. Nice and easy. So I think we can adapt our other one to it. So we'll get that unhooked, start getting everything unhooked on the engine, and antifreeze drained, and get her out of there. Shouldn't be much longer. It would be nice if I could get this out today and just set the other one down in. I know I'm going to cut these mounts off, but just set the other one down in enough to slide it back and see, you know, you can see what I was talking about. I'm close to the firewall on this one, but you got to add 1.5 inches for the longer bell housing. And then the way the back of the engine's made, I think it's going to clear. It's going to be close, but I think it's going to clear. If not, we'll chop firewall. It's not a big deal. So, get this beautiful exhaust off. And let me see. Just need to unhook the battery before I start throwing sparks everywhere. I'm not going back with these headlights. I'll show you the headlights I'm going to go back with here shortly. Redo the mounts and lower the lights down some. I don't want them up that high. And like I said, I don't know, I'd love to change this front end altogether. This car is about let's say 16 inches longer wheelbase than this one, and what they've done is basically what's called a suicide front end. They've went up and in front of the frame and went up with it. Now, you know, as long as them welds are good and it's fabricated good and all that, there's no problem, which I don't think there is a problem with this one, but I would still have to look it over, make sure there's no cracks, and go on and maybe do a little bit of fabricating and plating just for me to feel safe. And then we'll go from there. If I run it like that, if I don't decide to raise it up some and go up under. I like the low look, but it is really low. So, but let's just keep at it, and we'll figure it out as we go. No big plans, just work with it as we go. And also, just so everybody can see, and you know, they didn't get to see the original build on this, I shortened this up probably at least a ½ inch, and I shortened this up. Either I shortened it or I changed it out to a different one. But on this other transmission, it was probably an inch longer. So that's one of the reasons I didn't want to use this transmission, and I wanted to use the other one. And this one here we either get used in another project, or I'm going to get a hold of the buddy of mine that gave me this transmission and offer to give it back to him. And because I don't have a need for it right now. If I had a need for it right this minute, I would do it. You know, I'd just use it and keep it, but I'm going to offer it back to him. And I guess what I'll do is this Buick engine right here will adapt maybe the Mustang transmission or Camaro transmission to it, because it, you know, the car is not already built that's going to go in, which we don't even know what it's going to go in yet. So anyway, that's the deal. Okay folks, got it out. The only thing I cut was the motor mounts, and that's because they was going to have to be cut either way, so just as well cut them while I'm taking it out. So that's done, and we are going to go ahead and set the engine in. Now this is not going to be permanent in any way. I'm just going to set it down in. I want to see where it lands and get some ideas and all that good stuff, but just, you know, guessing at it, I just can't just start building stuff without having the engine sitting down in it, or even making plans. So it's not painted yet or anything like that, which is not a problem. And you know, there's still more stuff I got to do to it before we put it in permanent or anything like that. But I've got to, you know, really see if it's going to clear everything, and firewall and steering and all that stuff. You can see how far that steering sticks out. So I don't know. We'll just have to set it in and see. fork is hitting our windshield visor there, so I got to be careful. Looks like we may end up with steering issues. I don't know. I'm going to keep trying to get it back some. I know I got it down low, but we'll get a jack under here in a minute. We'll get it one way or the other. If we have to cut the steering box out of it. Okay, I'll show you what the problem is here. Alright, everything's going fine except all of this needs to be behind or up here. If I can get this in front of the bell housing, then we can work with it. The only way I know to do that, try to twist it around and get it, just get it behind it somehow. That's how it was on the other one. I think the box, because the engine's going to be up higher, will clear the head right here, or the cylinders. So I think that's what we need to do. I may have to trim off some of the box on the edge or the mount, but if we can get it around behind it, I think it'll be okay. We've got room. All right, let me still keep messing with it. All right, folks, it's in there, and two things. It might look like it's leaning back pretty good, but the frame runs downhill for one thing, and second, if you look, the carburetor flange is level. Carburetor looks kind of funny on these things because they sit so far forward, because them engines lean back a good ways. So, but it's right where it's at. It went back far enough. That's exactly how far. You can see I'm going to have to do some work on my throttle linkage anyway, which I was going to do some changing, but it's touching the distributor here, so we can do away with that. Change it around. You can see where the bell housing came out to, right even with the firewall, which was about exactly where I figured it would. And then we've got some space in between, and we've got about a ½ inch between the distributor and the firewall. So that's about perfect. You go in here where our cross member bolted in. It bolted in right here, and it's straight lined up with these holes, and then lined up with the other holes, which is not a big issue. I mean, that's close where we need to be anyway. Well, that's actually exactly where we need to be, but we could finagle it just a little bit, you know, back and forth, not much because of the drive shaft, but I'm putting a rubber mount back here this time on this instead of a solid, so I've got to do some changing either way. I'll show you the steering box, the clearance on the other side, and let me see, I may have to go from the inside and show you. As you can see, steering box is in front of the bell housing and notched out right there where we had notched it for the other engine, and I mean it'll play right there. We're probably going to take a little bit off that corner of it, so we don't want it touching, but that's about like what we want. It looks like our clutch linkage will actually just about hook up. Matter of fact, I think it will hook up. I think it's gonna just about go in place. Let me see. Well, I'll have to unhook my rod from there, but it's actually pretty darn straight. That's it's not quite on the money, but just about. It will work. Won't be no problem. So we'll have a good clutch there. Everything else seems to be working out good. I think pretty sure that the floorboard will fit on. If it don't, if this comes out too far or something like that, we'll just do some changes on it. Not an issue at all there. And everything else is looking fine. So not much clearance problem. You know, if this thing would have had an exhaust manifold over here, we would have had a mess. And that's one of the reasons I went with this engine instead of the Packard engine. You know, originally the Packard engine is what I wanted to put in it. So, but I like this better. I mean, for this style car anyway. So I think that's about it for tonight, or for today. Quite a bit done. Yeah, I think once we get everything built in good and do our exhaust like I want to do it, I think it'll be just fine. It'll look different. Different than most of them anyway. Definitely better with that than the 600, I think. So, all right. Anyway, front end sticks out there a long ways. Which, you know, that's one thing. Our headlights we're putting on is a lot longer, teardrop shape, so that'll make it look a little better. Plus, we're gonna get them down. We're gonna change the grill out. So, like I said, I'm gonna go through and check that front end out really well. Make sure there's no cracks or anything that has started on it. The good thing about the way the weight transfer is on this, the engine's back so far that a lot of the weight goes toward the back. It's all not on the front axle, and you know that helps out a whole lot. And suspension was a little stiff anyway, so this will loosen it up some. Now the back's still going to be too stiff. We're going to get that taken care of. So, but that's it so far, and I sure appreciate everybody watching. And until next time, bye.